Hey everyone, this is King Trap back at it again. Today I'm bringing you a video featuring a calculation and the importance of doing so in the end/middle game. If you're new here, subscribe and turn notifications on because I create informative chess content to help better your play and increase your chess understanding. So with that, let's get started. This is a game I played on Lichess in the 1500 range, high 1400, low 1500 range, and I opened with 1 e4. e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and then bishop to b5. We have the Roy Lopez on the board. And if you don't know what the Roy Lopez is, it's this specific setup where white is looking to, prevent black from pushing this central pawn, this central d pawn, by enforcing a pin because he's x-raying the king here. And sometimes he'll capture and then captures back. You'll have a doubled pawn on the c file. So a lot of good theory here, and this is a well-known line played by tons of grandmasters over the years. So in this game, he moves his knight to d4, and I respond with the strongest move recommended by the engine, capturing the knight, because this knight has just too much prowess here in the middle. Silly moves like, I don't even know, castling and then moving your queen over. You're going to run into a bunch of forks, or somehow he can end defending this. This knight in the center of the board is known as a monster knight because it has 8 squares that he can jump to. And that's why the common saying is knights on the rim are dim, whereas knights in the middle are monsters. So I don't want to mess around with this, so I just capture. Plus he was threatening to take my bishop, so I capture, and he captures back, and I castle. King safety, I'm ahead in development. He doesn't have any pieces developed. I figure I'll castle here, look for a pawn break, and look to develop my pieces. So he threatens my bishop, and I move it back to the c file. He plays a passive move here with the, with this pawn move. A better move probably would have been to push my bishop out further back, but he's just thinking probably of developing his pieces. So I developing my queen, threatening checkmate, easily blocked with the development of his knight, and then I open up this dark square diagonal from my dark square bishop. He cements his structure here in the middle, and then as planned I bring my dark square bishop out and pin the knight to the queen. He defends, breaking the pin, and I look to break open the center. And the reason I do this is because I'm well developed and my king is safe. So a pawn break in the center of the board favors white in this situation, whereas black, he has only 2 pieces developed, and they're kind of awkward. His strong pieces, his strong light squared bishop that has this nice diagonal hasn't even moved, and his queen hasn't moved either, and he isn't castled. So as the center of the board breaks up, you're going to have really good attacking chances as white. So he takes, which I would not have taken. I would have castled in this instant. But he takes, and this further develops white's. This further helps white as it helps me develop with a tempo. I'm capturing a piece as well as developing. So now I'm 3 minor pieces developed and my queen to his 2. So positionally, white is favored here. So as you can see, I develop my rook, and he finally brings out his light square bishop, and we just trade. I also develop my other rook. Now I have 2 strong central rooks compared to his rook that hasn't even moved, and he has a nice semi-open file for this rook. Moves like this are going to bring a discovered attack on the queen. So he moves his queen over, and I proceed with my pawn break. Captures, and the bishop hangs here. So you think, oh, he's winning a pawn right here because after recapturing, because of the discovered attack on the queen, so you can't take with the rook. He just wins the bishop. But after this sneaky move, queen takes e6 check. The queen has to capture. Otherwise, I'm just winning the pawn back for free. And after I recapture, the material is equal. So he captures in the middle, and then I threaten his bishop because it's undefended. I could have taken this pawn, but I want to move this knight. I want to develop this knight to a stronger, more central square, so I can put a little bit more pressure on his king in pieces. And this piece is hanging, and moves like this maybe will help him hold on to it, but because these are doubled, I'm not entirely worried that he's going to be pushing for an advantage here. So he moves his dark squared bishop as he doesn't want to lose it, and then only then do I recapture on d4. He occupies the open c file, which is a good move by black, and I push his bishop back. And I did not like this move by black. Putting your bishop clear back in this corner is pretty risky, because thoughts of pushing f4 kind of just close him in. He can't go anywhere. He'll never be able to move here. You'll have to develop and try and bring him back to ever get this piece active. So, but he also it leaves this piece undefended. So a better move probably just would have been occupying this central square with his dark squared bishop. Anyway, he hangs the pawn, and I take it gladly. He threatens my b pawn, and I defend. So this is a point where I think black goes terribly wrong. He plays rook to e2, and this move, blunder. I don't want to say blunders the game, but there's some really nice tactics here. You think, bishop to f6 check. Whether you take here or here, you're just winning this rook. So unfortunately in my game I missed this, and I just played this f4 move, denying this bishop any access to the game, kind of entrapping him between two pawns. So he defends his undefended b pawn, and this move I think was really poor on my end. This is such a strong move and so highly recommended by the engine. But you're in a bullet game. You're not always going to see the best moves available, but it's important to look for these tactics, and why it's so important to review games afterwards, because seeing this should become more natural. Oh, it's a discovered attack on his undefended rook, and it comes with check, so he can't just move the rook. He has to take the knight, or he has to move the king. So, but at this point, continuing with the game, he plays d8, and here I went into a pretty deep calculation, because I had to understand, checkmate's coming, right? So I need to know what I need to do. Do I need to move my king closer and threaten this rook, so he can't just play this, because then I have captures? Or can I block with this piece? Can I block with this piece? So I have a lot to calculate here. So first I checked, can I block with this rook? And so if I block with this rook, and then he takes, and I take, then he takes, and winning for black, he's winning my knight. So I had to find, well, is there any other way that this works? So if rook comes here and he captures, I saw, oh, rook to e8 check means that this piece is still attacked right here, but he can't win my knight. So the king would have no squares, because these are both covered by the rook. He'd have to move here. And so if here, 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 check, king moves, and then I'd have this sneaky knight captures rook on d6, forking both the king and the rook, winning me the game. So I decided to go through it after this deep calculation, and black falls right into it, checks the king, and then you can see the winning move. Rook captures rook, and at this point my opponent resigned. So it's a good example of a calculation that's pretty, by all means, doable by any chess player. It's just the patience and the understanding of, I have to take my time right here and not just guess. Because if we go back to this position, it's really easy to just guess. Okay, yeah, if I move my rook here, it's defended by this rook. But you have to realize that hangs your, if here captures, it hangs your knight. So you need to slow down in the end games and really focus on calculating captures, because it'll win you games. This is completely winning for white. Why did black resign? Well, after you gobble up these pawns, you're gonna have a super strong pawn march, and like I said, this bishop is trapped here. So not even drawing chances in this game. The knight and the rook and the knight are just too powerful for the king and the trapped bishop to compete with. So I hope you enjoyed this game, and we'll see you in the next one.